Well, we'll go ahead and get going this morning then. This is the first book that we have on our list. This was, Janice shared this with me. So Janice, if you don't mind, talk to us a little bit about The Way of the Seal and why this book impacted you.
Yeah, well, thank you, Bob. Good morning, everybody. Well, part of when we had this discussion about what books I've read, and just recently, and these have sort of been my long-term study books, I read Your Mind is What Your Brain Does for a Living, which is a segue into The Way of the Seal. And really what it just all comes down to is that 10% of our life we're using our mind, and 90% of the time we're really using our subconscious mind. And we have limiting beliefs that are rooted deep inside of ourselves about what we can do, what we think about ourselves. We have limiting beliefs like I don't deserve it, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough. Some people are a fear of success as well as fear of failure. And so the actual book just, as I indicated, The Mind is What Our Brain Does for a Living, talks about how we have programming and how we need to do different exercises to reset our programming. And that's really where The Way of the Seal became one of my favorite books, because it was about finding your purpose and then preparing your mind and then having goals, really being clear on defining your mission. Some people have a mission, but they haven't really clearly defined their mission. And The Way of the Seal really speaks to envisioning your future and all of the different work that you need to do in order to accomplish your goals. And it really is directing your mind in a positive way, but being aware of what's going on in your mind and having daily practices. There's actually tools at a glance that you can actually implement. It isn't just something you do once in a while. It is crystallizing your thinking and developing your plan every day. And then transforming yourself by having goals that are specific, that are measurable, attainable, realistic, and that have a time frame to them that you can actually measure. By doing different segments daily, then you have more success. I guess it's a little bit like the slight edge, but The Way of the Seal went into a gentleman who actually wrote this book, and he basically gave his whole synopsis as what happened in his training to become a SEAL. And then he wrote the book so that you could have a template or a thought process like a SEAL would have, which would mean daily goals and accomplishment. So both of those books really spoke to me, and I use them regularly.
Oh, that's great. You know, The Way of the Seal, I haven't read this book yet. I intend to get a copy of this. My stepdad, who raised all of us kids at the end of World War II and during the Korea conflict, was Frogman, UDT, Underwater Demolition Team, which was the precursor to the Navy SEALs. So I have a really special place in my heart. He was basically a Navy SEAL during that time period. Then, of course, was in Vietnam as well. He fought in 3 different wars, bless his heart. With The Way of the Seal, you guys, here's an interesting book for you. In Your Mind is What Your Brain Does for a Living. What an interesting title, Janice, for a book.
Yeah.
But you enjoyed it, huh?
Well, I did, because I believe everything starts with what we believe and what's in our brains. And throughout the years of doing training and working with individuals, it's not that the intention of everybody isn't to want to achieve success, but somewhere along their process, something stops them. And it usually is something that is a limiting belief that they have grabbed onto from when they were younger. And we need to address those limiting beliefs, identify what they are, and eliminate them so that you can move forward. And so the mind, Your Mind is What Your Brain Does for a Living, really sort of speaks to some different methodologies that help you do that.
Yeah, awesome. Well, everybody on the webinar, I hope take a minute and jot down some of these titles. I did a quick search on Amazon to see if all of these books were available. They all are. And so I highly recommend that you take a few minutes and do that. Get copies of some of these books and read through them. Kind of moving along, here's a book by Malcolm Gladwell. I really like Malcolm Gladwell a great deal, The Tipping Point. And Judy, if you wouldn't mind, share a couple of thoughts with us with regard to this particular book.
Sure, absolutely, Bob. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, perfect.
So what I liked about The Tipping Point is about people that, that have small businesses or small ideas that tend to work and work and work and work. And, a lot of times it seems like we're working for nothing. It's, we don't get paid for that idea or our business right away. But there's just that point where all of a sudden things spread just like wild person, just like someone that has the flu can start an epidemic, and it's only one person that had the flu, and then all of a sudden, if you're in school, the whole classroom gets sick. And that's kind of the same way that we can look at our businesses, and even if we're looking at maybe inventing something, the same thing can happen to us, that we shouldn't just give up because there's not slow and steady growth, because sometimes there seems like there's no growth, and then all of a sudden there's an explosion. And so, that this book kind of gives me hope.
Yeah, thank you. Malcolm Gladwell's remarkable. In fact, we have another one of his books coming up in here in a little bit, The Outliers. And another one of his books is called David and Goliath, which was a really interesting read. I don't know how many of you are familiar with it or not, but it's a really interesting book to read. This book that Judy had recommended, I Moved Your Cheese, when we were working on this slide presentation and the girls were helping me, they were just mesmerized by I Moved Your Cheese. They kept saying, what is this about? We had fun with this. So Judy, if you don't mind, a little conversation here.
Yeah, so a lot of people know about the book Who Moved Your Cheese, and Who Moved My Cheese, and it's about dealing with change, and how you have to move with the change. And this book is kind of like a little story about 4 little mice that take it upon themselves to not live in the maze, and not to go around the maze looking for their cheese or looking for change, but instead to be innovative and be entrepreneurs and have that creativity and leadership that we all need to have in our businesses. And it really creates personal growth, and it makes it okay to be able to push the boundaries and kind of reshape who we are, and kind of make up our own rules. And these 3 little mice, the story, it's so cute. It's a really, really easy read, and it's really about making what we are doing in our life what we want it to be, not what other people expect of us or what we expected, but being able to shape that ourselves. So I really, really like this book.
Yeah, and I one of the bullet points I put up here is we underestimate our ability to control our own destiny and overcome the constraints we face. This is powerful. It's a powerful thought process. I had a guy called me a couple of days ago. I haven't seen this guy, I don't know, probably 5 years, probably. And he talked to me for 2 hours nonstop about how terrible his life was, and blames everything on his mother. And I just sat and listened to the guy, but I kept thinking to myself, oh, buddy, you can control your life. Yeah, but anyway, I left it at that and I just let him rant for 2 hours. It's all good. But he moved his own cheese, let me tell you. Moving along, here's a wonderful little book, Morning Miracle. Judy, why don't you share a thought on this Elrod book?
Well, actually, I think that if I remember correctly, Janice suggested that we read this book, The Morning Miracle.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, and we actually all read it together and had some great discussions about it. But what I thought was good about The Morning Miracle is that it really showed you how you can accomplish having a great day and get through a lot of your challenges and preparations in 6 minutes. And if we have a minute, I can just talk about, I'll just tell you what the 6 minutes are, and I'll do it in less than a minute, actually. Because starting up, the first thing in the morning, the first thing you want to do is just to be silent and to kind of meditate a little bit and really get into the present and what the day is going to bring, and just relaxing and allowing any stresses that you brought through the night to melt away, and kind of get a sense of peace. The second minute is just to have affirmations, and I know Dave Munoz is really big with affirmations. He has a list of affirmations that he does every single day. So find a list of affirmations and just say them. And the third minute is visualization, and that is really looking at the future and really what you want your day to be, because just as we just said, we have the ability to move our own cheese. So we can see ourselves either hunkered down in a rainstorm, or walking out in the rain enjoying the rain on our face. We have the choice of how we're going to present ourselves, and so we can visualize the best part. The fourth minute is to journal and to just really write down what you're grateful for, what you're proud of, and what you're going to be committed to during the next day. And the fifth is just to read. Most people do not read. A lot of us on this call read more than a minute, but if you can just start with a minute reading a good book, it can be a motivational book, it can be the good book, whatever you want. Just take a minute and do that. And then the last one is to exercise, and exercising for 60 seconds, just get your heart rate up, get energized, and get going in the morning. So that's basically what the 6 minutes are. But you need to read the book to really listen to Hal Elrod and his story and where he came from to developing this process.
Yeah, an interesting thing. I think everybody on the call pretty much knows who Robert Kiyosaki is. And Robert Kiyosaki said, Hal Elrod is a genius. And his book, The Miracle Morning, has been magical in my life. What Hal has done is taken the best practices developed over centuries of human consciousness development and condensed the best of the best into a daily morning ritual, a ritual that is now part of my life, my day. That's Robert Kiyosaki talking about this book. It really is a great book. So go to Amazon, get a copy of this book, and read it. It's really good. Now, Boundaries is another book that Judy recommended. I've not read this book, but it looks really interesting, Judy. I'm keeping you on the call here a bit, but do you want to share a little bit about Boundaries?
Sure, absolutely. I really enjoyed this book because personally, I was the person that never wanted to create waves. That, if someone came over to my house to visit, I would let them stay as long as they wanted, no matter what else that I was doing. Same thing if somebody called me. I was never the one that would say, oh gosh, I have to go. because I wanted to be the nice person. And just one day, I guess I figured that, you know, it's great to be nice, but I have to be nice to me too, and I have to set some boundaries. And so this book came along just at the right time, because if you know what your boundaries are, you can create some balance, and you can get even a higher respect for yourselves, and people will respect you more. You know, most people will accept if you have to take a call or you have to leave. You know, they don't know that, you know, something might be going on in your life unless you tell them. And so to put up these boundaries and having them clear and being able to express them can make such a difference in your life. I can't even tell you. Helps with emotion and just spirituality, just absolutely everything. So this is a really, really good book.
Yeah, I really appreciate this too. You know, you look at these mental boundaries, emotional, spiritual, physical boundaries, really, really important stuff. Physical boundaries, have you ever had kids come to your house and just run amok in your home? And you're like sitting there going, well, I'm going to have to tranquilize that child, you know, because they don't understand physical boundaries. These are very real important boundaries to understand. So I think I'm going to have to buy this book too. Judy, thank you so much. And the next book in our lineup is one of the greatest books ever, The Greatest Salesman in the World. I read this book when I was in high school, and it had a profound effect on my life. A friend of mine, Gary Phillips, and I, we played music together. We were both guitarists, and back in the day, you know, back in 1970, we spent a lot of time playing music, and he and I had both read The Greatest Salesman in the World, and it had, like I said, a profound effect on my life. I don't know how many folks on the call have read this book, but I've got this coming Wednesday night, I'm involved with what's called an Eagle Court of Honor for one of the young men that I work with, who just finished his step to get his Eagle Scout Award in Boy Scouts. Only 1 out of 200 boys ever achieved that level in scouting. And one of the merit badges that he worked on was Reading Merit Badge. And I'm the counselor for that merit badge. And so I found a used copy of The Greatest Salesman in the World off Amazon. I paid 1 cent for it, 1 penny. $3.99 to ship it, but 1 penny for the book. Got a copy of it and got it to him. And he read it, and he was, again, he's an 18-year-old teenager, high-achieving teenager, student body president, and just set some new track records for their school. Really great kid. But this book, as he read it, really touched his heart. Judy, I'm picking on you a bunch, but just in a minute, share a thought about this book.
Well, what's so great about this is there's 10 scrolls in this book, and the title of the chapter really is the body of the scroll. So Mandino says that you should read 1 scroll each day for 30 days before you actually go on to the next one. And I probably have read this book, 20, 30 times. I use this in my coaching program. And what I love about it is that the lessons in the book can be interpreted different ways at different times in your life. You can reread a scroll and pick something up in it like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize it was there. And we actually had to memorize all 10 scrolls in my coaching training. So, I can say that, I begin this day with love in my heart, and I could recite them to you. But if you're using them as a guide, your mind will clear and focus to something positive. So, and just, the ability, scroll number 1, today I begin a new life. Just just little things that that you can use as guides to work with throughout your day to continue to have a positive attitude and great possibilities. So this is an amazing, amazing read. And it's a small book.
Yeah, I love this book. I absolutely love it. You know, Norman Vincent Peale said, "The greatest salesman in the world is one of the most inspiring, uplifting, and motivating books I have ever read. I can well understand why it has had such a splendid acceptance." It's not a new book. It's been out for a long time, but it is powerful. So, yeah, The Greatest Salesman in the World. I love this book. You know, this book by Jeff Olson, The Slight Edge, has really been a cornerstone in our business. And I've asked Dan if he could take a minute or two and share some thoughts with regard to The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson.
Thanks, Bob. If we've listened to you and Judy and Janice and the comments that you've made about every one of the books that you've shared, there's an overriding common theme in all of them, and that is daily disciplines. And The Slight Edge helps us to realize that our daily disciplines determined our outcome. So those daily disciplines can be positive things that are leading you towards a positive outcome, or they could be daily disciplines that are leading you towards a negative outcome. Bob, you shared your friend who called you out of the blue and spent 2 hours blaming his life on his mom. All right? You know, his daily disciplines that he's done every day has taken him from whatever point in time his mom caused something to happen in his life, and because of his daily disciplines of how he has processed that, has led him to taking 2 hours of your time and hundreds of hours out of his life from being what he could truly be to what he actually is. So it's the daily disciplines. Those disciplines can be positive things that are moving us towards positive goals, or they're moving us towards negative goals, and we don't see them we don't see the outcome every day. Those disciplines build on top of each other. Judy talked about I can't remember the title of the book, but The Tipping Point. She talked about in The Tipping Point how all of a sudden the momentum is like you've got the rock finally at the top of the mountain, and now it's rolling down the other side, and it's building momentum in life, and things are changing. Well, it was the daily discipline of moving that rock, rolling that rock to the top of the mountain, or whatever the hill is, or whatever the challenge is in your life, and then being able to see the outcome of that. And sometimes as you're doing that, you don't necessarily see the progress, but when you look back a year from where you started to where you're at a year later in doing those positive daily disciplines that are going to get you to the outcome that you're looking towards, now you can begin to look backwards and see how that has made such a significant difference. So The Slight Edge, to me, is one of the foundational books that a person really needs, because it applies to everything that you do. It applies to your physical health. It applies to your mental health. It applies to your spiritual health. So it's that slight edge done on a daily basis with daily disciplines is going to determine the type of future outcome that you have. Thanks, Bob.
You're welcome, Dan. This particular read is really powerful. I bought copies of The Slight Edge and sent them to all 5 of my adult children. All my kids have a copy of this book. Now, whether they've all read it or not, I'm not sure. But I've recommended it to my kids. This is a great book. If you don't have a copy of this, I recommend you go to Amazon and pick one up. Yeah, and Yancey put in the chat box, and he said, "Good book. The moment that makes the difference, positive or negative." And then there's a phrase in the book, and this is actually, I'm glad that Yancey put this on the chat box. Easy to do, easy not to do. It's easy to say, okay, I'm just going to watch an hour of TV tonight, as opposed to spending an hour sending out emails to people who might be able to benefit from the Microbiome Purify Kit. Those are easy choices to make. And it's that daily choice of making those easy choices to either to do something or to not do something that repeated every day leads to that outcome.
thanks, Yancy, for sharing.
Yeah, thank you guys, both of you. I appreciate it. This next book, Thrive by Arianna Huffington, I'm not familiar with this book. This is one that Jean had information that I could find on it. Let's see, this time my internet connection's unstable. I hope, you guys still see this okay?
Yep. Yes.
Okay, very good. Has anyone else on the call read this book? I don't know.
I have not.
But I think Jean is on. She's in and out of the room. She's got some stuff going on in her house, but she is on.
Jean, can you speak about this book? Are you there?
She must have left her office, but she just texted me and said that she was in and out. So.
Okay. All righty. Well, that's fine.
I'm here.
Okay. Hey, girl, can you talk about Thrive for just a minute?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I love this book. I'm actually just about finished with it, and it's such an important book. I think everyone should read this book because we talk about all the time being busy and the things that we need to get done. I hear women all the time, and I know, Judy, you and I both know people who pride themselves on how much they get done in a day, and I only had 3 hours of sleep last night, and I'm so busy. I mean, I hear that all the time. I'm so busy. It's almost like a badge of honor for people that they're busy all the time. And she talks about, I mean, I don't know if everybody's familiar with her big wake-up call. You know, she runs an empire, for crying out loud, and she was one of those people who said, I never sleep. I prided myself on how much I didn't sleep, and she actually collapsed in her office and hit her head on her desk and broke her cheekbone, and she woke up laying on her office floor, and she said, this has just got to stop. And since then, she says that, you know, that she gets her full 8 hours of sleep at night, and she makes sure that her employees don't overwork. She makes sure that there's meditation rooms in their offices, and people take time out to, as Bob would call it, ponder. You know, a lot of people call it meditation. But taking that time out to be who you are is so important. And she says now that she actually is more productive, and it's because when you give your brain space to think, then you're better at it. You know, I'll give a quick example of what's been going on in my life. You know, right now I'm listening with half an ear, and I'm running downstairs and upstairs getting boxes to go put in storage because we're having an open house today. And I really haven't been sleeping that great because, you know, I haven't had an open house, I don't think, ever in my life. And we were always very fortunate to just have our houses sell. So we're having this open house, and I haven't been sleeping. And yesterday I ran, and you probably can hear it in my voice right now, I'm very scattered. And I had a meeting yesterday where I talked to 40 women in a room, and usually it's easy for me. And I was really scattered. I could not hold my thoughts in my head. I was not clear. I was not grounded. And I know it was because I just haven't been sleeping well, and I've been, and it had a different kind of stress. And I just think it's important for everybody to realize that, you know what, when we die, we all die. You're no longer busy no matter what. And, enjoy your life and do the things that you have to do, but, there's got to be things like Judy said earlier. There's got to be things that you leave behind. You can't be all things to all people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it certainly does. And as you were, and stay on here because you have another book to talk about.
Okay.
But, as you were sharing that thought, most of you are familiar with the company Patagonia, and Sherrard, the guy that created Patagonia, has a philosophy there. It's in Ventura, California. It's down by the beach, actually. And his people can sort of go and come as they want during the course of the day. And he says, as Sherrard said, what good is it to have a job if you can't go surfing? And that's kind of the philosophy. Half the guys that are there working in the Patagonia place, you know, have got seaweed in their hair and dripping water from having just come in from the beach surfing. So they can walk over, clock out, go out, surf for a while if the surf is good, and then come back in, clock back in, and go back to work. And it's created a remarkable business for those guys. So, yeah, there's just something to be said for, you know, taking a moment, smelling the roses. I don't know how it is at your house. I saw some pictures of Judy's place and her beautiful flowers. I stood for a few minutes last night in the lilacs, just smelling the lilacs. And I know it sounds silly, but that's really therapeutic. You know, that's good stuff. So thanks for sharing that book. You love this little book, Gene. I've heard you talk about it before. So maybe you could take a minute and share this story with us.
Well, I have to say that probably this book changed my life, as Bob knows, because Bob has been with me since the very beginning of my synergy business. When I came into business about 7 years ago, I really didn't know very much about business, and I'm not a super aggressive person. Just because I'm loud doesn't mean I'm aggressive. I don't really like to sell. And I hear a lot of people say that they don't like to sell. And when I read this book, it just made so much sense to me because I've always believed that you reap what you sow. And this is basically, I mean, if you really believe you reap what you sow, you should be sowing all the time. You should be sowing, or yeah, if you're sowing all the time, you'll be reaping all the time. And this is the book that was the basis for the women's group that I've started here in Chicago, and man, has it taken off. And there's a lot of people who believe what's in this book, and that is that the more that you give, the more that you look for ways to help other people. Now, I'm not talking about, oh, let me help you. This, if you buy my product, this will help you. Genuine ways of really helping people in ways that a lot of people don't do anymore. You know, that, you know, what's in it for me is always kind of the, you know, if I give this to you, what will you give me in return? That's not how it works. It works this way. I just go around giving. I'm patient, more patient. I don't want to say I am patient. I'm more patient than I was before because I want people to be patient with me. And I'm more giving of my time because there's times when I really want people to be giving of their time to me. Not necessarily if I give Joe $5, I expect him to give me back $5, but I expect to get $50 from other people. Does that make sense, Bob?
Well, yeah, it's a powerful little book, and it is a little book. So, yeah, go for it. I remember when we all first started reading, or first read The Go-Giver, Stu Rutter, it had a powerful effect on Stu's life. I remember Stu talked about it often. And, yeah, what a great read. Gina, you doing okay? Moving boxes? You're selling your house?
My office sits adjacent to the hallway, so I can be out there working and listening to you guys while I'm out there. So when I heard you say, we're going to talk about this book, Gina, are you there? I'm like setting down boxes and running into the room. So I'm not taking my own good advice from the Thrive book, but yeah, it's a little crazy here right now, but it's all good. It's all good.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Good luck with your move, and we'll just kind of move right along here because we're really out of time.
And
I posted up a few more books I wanted to show everybody, and then we'll be. Yeah.
I just wanted to tell you that every time you switch the screen and you keep talking,
I've got
it sounds like you go underwater.
Yeah, you still there? Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll try to stay submerged. That's not right. Thank you. So this book, John C. Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, we're reading this book right now. I like this book. I highly recommend it. Go to Amazon and get yourself a copy. And I don't know what these little squiggly lines are. I must have done it wrong when I built the slides. But anyway, this is a great book, you guys. I recommend that you get a copy of this book and read through it. There are 12 or 21 laws. They're simple things, law of the lid and influence, process, navigation, addition, on and on. So a really, really good read. Okay. Am I still underwater? Is this okay now?
You sound
You're
good.
okay.
Okay. Laws of Success. Judy recommended that we read this book. Well, actually, I think Judy recommended that we read the 21 Irrefutable Laws as well. But this is a wonderful book. Every now and then you'll pick something up that really resonates with you personally. That's how this book was for me. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And this is available now on Amazon. It wasn't at first. We had to get it off of Les Brown's website, but you can buy this book on Amazon now. And I really, really enjoyed that book. This Good to Great by Jim Collins is a standard in the industry. I'm not sure how many folks here have had a chance to read this, but this talks about how good companies, or mediocre companies, good companies, can go from being good to being great. And there are just certain key influences that make that difference. And he highlights certain companies and explains how it is that they went from being good companies to being great companies. And it's a great go-to read. I think you'll enjoy it. If you look here, he talks about the study, the standard, the comparisons, and the findings. And just an excellent read. You know, Janice, are you the one that suggested that we read this book by Marvin Brown? I think Janice suggested this, How to Meet and Talk to Anyone, Anywhere, Anytime. When I got a copy of this book, I thought, this is, you know, pretty basic stuff, simple strategies for great conversations. However, as I read this book, because I'm pretty good about talking to people. I have an easy time with people. But when I got a copy of this book and started to read it, it really touched me. In fact, I mentioned this young man who's getting his Eagle Award Wednesday night. I gave him a copy of this book as well as part of the reading merit badge and suggested that he read it. And he did. And it was, he enjoyed it. Again, a small book, but easy to read. Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Has anybody on the call read this book besides me? Yes, maybe. Well, if you haven't,
I read it, Bob.
I haven't.
It's a fascinating book. He's a really interesting writer. So what the rich teach their kids about money that the poor middle class do not. And then one last book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Ideas that have the power to change your life and set you upon the path of learning and self-development. This is a gold standard book on self-development. So I don't even know what else to say about Think and Grow Rich. Does anybody have a comment with regard to it? Maybe not. Okay, no problem. Well, listen, this is as far as I was going to go with the slide present. Oh, no, I've got outliers in there too, excuse me. This is another Malcolm Gladwell study. Malcolm Gladwell talks about the 10,000 hours concept in this book, Outliers. And again, it's an excellent read. Outliers, David and Goliath, these are books by Malcolm Gladwell. The Tipping Point, excellent books to read. So I recommend them all. So anyway, that's all I've got for this morning. You guys have gone a little far longer than I had anticipated. Thoughts or comments or questions before we close?
I love all the books, Bob. Thank you so much for putting this together. I just love your little comments on the right-hand side. I think it's going to be a big help for people when it gets downloaded to the website to help choose which books they want to start with. And this was a great idea.
It was a great idea. I'm writing down all these books that I want to read now.
Yeah. And you know what? I kind of would like to do another one at some point in time about the health books that we've been reading.
Oh, that's a great idea, Judy.
because there's there's such great new concepts about health and doctoring. I'm reading on Undoctored right now, and it's an amazing read to me.
And I'm reading Brainmaker, which is all about the gut and the microbiome health.
Yeah,
I think that's a great idea. Yeah. Well, let's just plan on it. Well, we're always looking for new ideas for webinars on Saturdays, and so let's do it. And I think for anybody on the webinar this morning, finding a good book to read is an important part of our business. And any real and searching effort at self-improvement is in and of itself a lesson in humility. I believe that with all my heart. And so we're constantly trying to improve and to become better. I've always said that this life is all about becoming. I really believe that. It isn't about what we've got. It's about who we've become. And we become better people as we read and grow and stretch a little bit. And so there you have it. Thanks, everybody.
Hey, Bob, before you go, since you used the word become, Yancey put a chat in here. Another deep book for the business-minded is How to Become a Rainmaker by Jeffrey Fox, especially if you want to work with clients.
How to Become a Rainmaker.
How to Become a Rainmaker by Jeffrey Fox.
All right.
So we're recording this, Bob, and then what I'll do on Monday when the recording goes out, I'll go back through your slide presentation and I'll also list out each one of these books that you've shown us with the authors so that people can, they don't necessarily have to go through the recording, but they can see the list of books that have been recommended.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. All of the bullet points that you see on the sides of all of these slides, I went through just the summaries, in Amazon and pulled out what I thought made sense. So that's what that's all about. Okay, guys, thanks so much. Y'all take care. God bless you all, and we'll see you again before you know it.
Thank you, Bob.
I know.